You picked a picture with the long hair. Thank you. Hi, I'm Trish Ranson, State Representative for House District 34, right here in the heart of Stillwater. I have been the state representative for 7 years, and that's when the teacher walkout happened in 2018. And I was, until then, the music teacher at Westwood Elementary. I was there for 15 years and saw a lot of student teachers come through my classroom. I think one year I had a max of 3, which was a lot. one semester and 2 the other semester, and whew, that was a bit much. But it was a great way to prepare music educators to going forward. It also helped my students know that there is always going to be another grown-up coming around in the room, and they will most likely sing and dance because I'll make them. So, you know, it's all that good stuff. But I'm a firm believer in public education. I was educated in Ponca City, Oklahoma, and a public ed student myself. And then I raised both of my children. It seems natural to be an advocate for public education. I have to think, you know, if you think about like what our society is, and just the people you come across, that public school is the only place that you can come across people from different backgrounds, religions, socioeconomic status, neighborhoods, everything. It's the only place in our society where we can have interaction with others that are different than us without choosing it. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you went to church, I mean, you're around a whole bunch of Methodists or you're around a whole bunch of Lutherans. But if you go to Walmart, okay, there is the devotees who only go to the Walmart on Perkins Road, okay? But then there's the others who will not go anywhere else except for on 6th. Okay, so we choose things for ourselves. But public ed is that place where we get to learn. And I think it's really important, especially as young children, to learn that people are different, but yet we may be different, but we're still the same inside. And that's a really important lesson to learn. Teacher walkout 2018. And so I walked out of my classroom. I was very nervous to walk out of my classroom because I am an extrovert. I can talk to anyone. I love to be in front of people. This is great. But I don't like large crowds. And that seems kind of weird. They'd be like, oh, well, Trish, yeah, no. I don't like large crowds because I worry about the mob mentality. So, you know, you go to the sporting game, you know, the testosterone goes crazy, and there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of name calling, all of this is like, I don't necessarily like that. I go for the marching band. So, you know, but when it comes to a group of people who are all angry, gathering together to share their anger with those who are elected, it felt I was very uneasy about it. I didn't want to go, but I felt like I needed to, and so I did. What I found was the exact opposite of what I thought I was going to see. I thought I was going to see anger and hatred and name calling and just things like that, and what I actually saw was advocacy, was frustration shared in a civil way, was a whole bunch of people who just like, oh my gosh, you feel the same way that I do? I found my music teacher friends from all across the state, because that's one of the things that is difficult of being about a music teacher. You're the only one in the building, especially elementary. I'm the only music teacher in the building. So then all of a sudden to see all of my ORF friends and all my Kodai friends from all across the state, and then to be like, oh wow, we get to talk. That was amazing, and it was unifying to be together in that space. There was a moment during that thing, and I want to just share one story about the teacher walkout. But there was one moment where the front steps, there was a stage set up, there were choirs, there was band members. I mean, everyone came and performed and then spoke and all of this, and there was a huge crowd in front, and it was just a sea of people. And there was a young child that got lost, separated from the mother. And the mother is frantic, tells someone that's up at the microphone, and that they can't find their child. And so the person at the microphone is a teacher as well. And so they go to the microphone and they tell the whole people, because I'm there, I'm standing there, and they're like, everyone, take a knee. And everyone took a knee. And when we all did, boop, there's the kid. Because we could see them now. And it was one of those moments of mother frantic. I mean, I'm a mom too, so I just like, oh my gosh, what was lost is now found. And just the fact that we all worked together in that one moment for that child. And I thought, that's what we do every single day. We go to work in schools for that one kid. We just happen to have 20, 30, 40 at a time in a classroom, but we do it for that one kid. And that was just really, it was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, teaching is a really fantastic profession to be in, because we're all so focused. Now I will tell you that I did go and I visited with my representatives, and I visited with other representatives and senators that weren't mine, and I found a very major disconnect in those who are elected to represent us. In the sense that I didn't feel like they understood what we were experiencing in our classroom. So when I started in 2003 in Westwood Elementary, I was part-time, okay? So we, at the time, all elementary schools had a 0.5 music teacher. So everyone else shared 2 schools. I only had 1 school. And so it was a really interesting, I was there half-time. I got paid half-time, which that really wasn't great either. But the idea that we really didn't have music as front and center as a priority in Stillwater Public Schools. That changed my second year. They changed everyone to full-time at elementary, so we had more of a buy-in. I will tell you, from part-time to full-time, whoo, big difference in the way the kids listen, the way the kids react, the way the kids perform, the way the kids pay attention. All of that is different. Because I'm going to stick around. Now, you're a part-time teacher, you're not going to stick around. They don't have the buy-in. But full-time, boom, that changed it. And so through that, I had a budget I could spend. And then, towards the cuts that have happened in the last 15, 16 years in education, my budget became 0. I bought everything myself. Every little piece of thing that I put in children's hands to work with, to put their little mini eraser, dollar spot, Target, oh my God, to put on a staff so that way they could do dictation. I mean, all of that I bought. And that's the reality of teaching right now. And so when we walked out, it was like, I see 565 students in my school every 3 days, and I prepare them to be amazing human beings and to be musicians that they already are. We're just cultivating that music ability, and then that way they go on to the next level. And hopefully they choose band, they choose choir, they choose orchestra, something that then takes them forward. And that's really important. So shouldn't that be supported? I mean, we support reading, we support math, we support all of this. Why are we not supporting music as well? So that became a really big advocacy for me. And so when I would have parents who would come, Johnny wants to play the piano. I don't know, I've never played the piano before. And, I'm like, okay, let's get you a piano teacher. Because I'd already met all the piano teachers. And I keep a list with their name and their phone number. And then it's like, oh, actually she's wanting to play guitar. Oh, great, I got a list of that too. Because it's all about who we know and then who can help the student in addition. And so advocacy is really important. And so then when parents see that their child can perform, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea she could do that. Or he was paying attention the whole time. It is amazing what music education does for children. It is. It's fascinating. So advocacy for my kids to learn music, to be able to grow in a district that values music, that gets awards in their orchestra, their band, their marching band, the choirs, the theater production. If you've never been to a Stillwater High School theater production, you need to go. In the spring, it is completely student run. Pit orchestra, front of house, lights, sound, all the actors on stage, backstage, all students. That is preparing them for the future. And so, I digress. But it's really important that we advocate for what we feel was most important for our students. And what was most important for our students is growing into a community that deals with each other, that works with each other, that learns from their experiences in public education. I will tell you that most of our laws are written by men that are over 65, that are white, that are Republican, that consider themselves Christian. Okay, all of that. Is that wrong? No. But when the majority of those people are all writing the laws, they are writing laws for the 1950s, the 1960s. We don't live in the 1950s or the 1960s anymore. We need laws that reflect our current situation, our current community. And that comes from representation. So who we elect is really important, because that is where they're taking their belief system to the Capitol to make laws. So I went and talked to some representatives and senators, and I remember one representative who luckily is no longer representing in the state of Oklahoma, but I remember he said to me, as I was with a whole bunch of teachers who happened to all be women, who we were telling him what was going on, and he made the comment, "Oh honey, you don't understand." Okay, there are triggers. I have triggers, and I will admit it. Calling me honey is one of them, and telling me I don't understand is another, especially when you're talking to a group of highly educated people that we don't understand. We don't understand, then educate us. And so I realized at that point, I was like, you know, this gig doesn't seem that hard. I think I could do a better job of this. And so I decided to run. And it was a really difficult decision to make. You do not have to give up your job to run for office, okay? You can still work and run for office. It's hard, but you can still do it. And I could still have done that. I could have run for office and still taught, yes. But should I win, which I was planning on winning in November, then to find a music teacher in an elementary school in November is like next to impossible. And I didn't feel like it was fair to my students, so I quit in May. And that way they could hire a new music teacher, Mrs. Sanders, Mrs. Sanders has been there for the last 7 years, and so she has nice longevity. Got to the point this year where I realized, oh, all my classes have now gone through Westwood, so I have no more students at Westwood anymore. Hard truth. But at the same time, it's a brand new building, and I never taught in the brand new building, so it's Mrs. Sanders' music class for sure now. But it was one of those things where I quit and I ran like hell because, you know, mama needs health insurance. And and so luckily my contract went to October, and I had health insurance up to that point, and then just a few weeks of November before I swore in, I didn't have any health insurance. But I was okay, so it was all good. But still, very, very hard. representing is basically advocating, but I get paid for it. And it also is finding out what is the best way forward. I would like to say that all ideas are great. They're not, unfortunately. And some ideas are worse than others, absolutely. Sometimes it's making the best decision. There was a bill that came up a couple of years ago that changed our graduation requirements. And one, it was our students are doing poorly in math. We need a math. So we had 4, 4, and 3. So 3 credits of math, and then you could graduate high school. They changed it to 4, 4, and 4. And I remember at the time just being like, no, I'm not for that. One, because our current state superintendent, I don't believe that our current state superintendent has the best interest for our schools. You may disagree with me, and that's totally fine, but I do not personally feel like he would be able to implement that type of program. Second, it got rid of a music credit. What? No. And third, let me just tell you, if kids don't like math, do you think taking an extra math course is going to make them like it? No. So how do we make sure that their math is up to par? And yes, absolutely, but not jam it down their throats and take something they do like away. So I was against it, and it was interesting because I was one of the only people who voted against that bill. And it was lonely. I will tell you, it was very lonely. I had members of my caucus going, Trish, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you doing? Why do you think this is a great bill? I mean, you're making it worse. But they're like, oh, well, it all worked out, and, you know, the state chamber's behind it. And I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Another reason to vote no. So it's because we get into this business focus. We got to be business ready. We got to prepare our workforce. Absolutely. Ensemble training. That is going to prepare our workforce. Making sure that you are listening to each other, that you are adapting as you go, that you have student leadership. All of those things are really, really important for the workforce. And we don't do enough of it. And music is where we hit it the hardest, and we need more. So it did pass, and one of those things it's like, and you know, okay, but I still think it's wrong. I still think that we need to have more music and more what they call soft skills. To me, they're not soft skills. They're pliable skills. They're skills that keep you engaged and focused, which are really, really important, more so than those hard skills. So, I don't know how much time I have.
What time is it?
It's 5:35.
You got like 5 more minutes.
I got 5 more minutes, okay. So 5 more minutes. See, I could like talk for a while. And so how do we get representation so that way we can make change? How do we make change? Those are 2 actually really different questions. And most folks, I mean, you're closer to civics class in high school than most of the people that I am around. And I will tell you that there is a vast need for civic education for grown-ups. I have an event every other month called People, Politics, and Pints, which is civics education for grown-ups, but with beer. You're under 21, sorry, no beer for you. But it's a great way to learn about civics in an environment that is fun, that we can have conversation and it not feel so like, I'm stupid, I don't know what this means. Nobody likes to feel that way. So how do we do that? Civics education is really important because you need to know how government works. And I'm not saying that because I'm with the government. I am saying you need to know how government works because if you don't, it will work you. This is a self-defense mechanism. You need to know how government works, how representation works, and you need to vote I'm just gonna put a period there. You need to vote. Voting is very important. You're all over 18, so you're all able to vote. If you're from another state, you can still register to vote in Oklahoma. If you have a Texas driver's license, you can still vote in the state of Oklahoma. You just have to use a paper form to register. But if you are an Oklahoma student, you have an Oklahoma driver's license, you can register to vote online at oklahoma.gov. It's very easy. You register to vote and then you vote. There's a lot of misconception about voting, and I'm gonna age myself here if the gray hair hasn't already. But you know, I grew up with Star Wars. I mean, whew, yes, such great storytelling. And I remember in Star Wars, you remember at the end, like Luke Skywalker, he's been practicing for this his whole life, and he shoots the proton whatever things down the whole of the Death Star, and the Death Star explodes. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, thank God. Okay. So that was like this big act, and he saved the day. That is not voting. Okay? 9 times out of 10, your vote will not be the deciding vote. However, what it is, it's an everyday practice. It is an everyday belief set that you are a member of this country. You are a member of this government because we govern all each other. We don't have a monarchy. We don't have a dictatorship. We have a democracy, a representative democracy. And so that means that we vote. And so think about voting more like brushing your teeth. Okay? You brush your teeth every day so that way people don't back up when you're talking to them, number one. Number two, it helps keep you from having cavities, because cavities are bad, and then you got to get fillings, and then they got to give you a shot in your mouth. You don't want that, so you brush your teeth. It keeps you from having bigger health events later on in life. Bad oral hygiene is a direct link to heart disease. So your life expectancy is shorter if you don't brush your teeth. Same thing with voting. If you don't vote regularly, then things happen that you don't like. Because people who do vote, they're the ones that decide who the person is in the presidency, who is the person is in Congress, who is the person at the state level, who is the person as your mayor. Okay? They decide for you. And 9 times out of 10, it is a dude that's over 65, white, Republican. So how do we change that? You've got to vote. Because every election is decided by those who show up. So show up. Every time. I will tell you, this next year it's going to be easy. You only have 5 opportunities to show up. February is a city ordinance type of election. Not everyone has an election in February. April is also Board of Ed, city government election. Not everyone will have that in April. June, very important election. That is the primary election. And depending on how you're registered, you may have someone to vote on, you may not. But I will tell you, in June, there is a big question on the ballot, which is, do we want to raise minimum wage? So that is a really important election to vote in. Then is August. That's a runoff election from the primaries. You may have an election, you may not. But November is big, because November, every single statewide position is on the ballot in November of 2026. Every House of Representatives is on the ballot. Half the Senate is, because they volley between their 4-year terms, so they volley between odds and even districts. So there are a lot of people who are going to be on the ballot in 2026. So it's good to know who it is, who to prepare for, who you support, all of that. Google helps. Find out who they are, then find people who know them. Because that's really, you'll learn a lot about the person by talking to the people who know them. So, vote. best thing you can do for advocacy. Okay, do we have time for questions or?
Yeah, I wanted to plug something really quick though.
Yes.
Some of you who were here last year, freshmen probably don't know, but we went to Youth Arts Day at the Capitol. There's very few went with us, so feel free to talk to any of us. You can go, you got a class, all you have to do is get there. And we all did a similar thing that Representative Ranson was talking about, going to the Capitol, talking to representatives about things that we saw, things that we were worried about. We went with Nafme. I don't know if you all knew this, Nafme is a national organization, and one of the biggest things that they do, that they serve teachers, is in advocacy. They have full-time people in Washington, D.C. all the time that just do that all day. And so that's a really big part of this organization. And we'll be going back this year. So if that sounded fun, or if you've talked to any of us and it sounds fun, be on the lookout for when that comes around, and we'd love to take some new people.
And Carter does this kind of stuff a lot. As somebody who was a freshman last year, it was really, really scary. But then you got there and there was all of these people. It's really not as scary as it seems. You just have to sit and wait to be able to talk to people. And then you talk to them, and then it's all okay. And it's all awesome. It's all great.
And we're all little kids, so they're all nice with us.
Well, and it really is not a scary place. It is a grand place. It is an official place. And so that can mean that folks feel a little bit anxious to be there. But it is also a huge museum. Beautiful artwork is there. And so, if anything, go for the art. And then you have a chance, an opportunity to talk to elected officials who are there. So if the art helps you first, then go for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
have a good time.
Okay, so any questions? Yes, sir?
How can you keep up with when elections are? Can you get like an email, like sign up for an email service, or?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. I know that even years are the election years. So we just had 2024, so that was presidential. And so what the 2026 is termed the midterm. And so that's usually all the state ones that are on that one. So it's basically just the even numbered years. And then, yeah, there should be a notification type of system.
There's usually local things that happen on the odd and like
Right.
ballot resolutions and smaller things that.
But I don't know of any like notifying
If
people
you-
that there is an election.
If you have a permanent address in Oklahoma and you have an absentee ballot, they will just mail you one for every election. You can
That's
verify
true.
the whole year. And then you don't even have to fill it out. You can just go vote in the real election, because it'll come early.
That's a good way to be notified. There should be a better notification system too.
There's sure.
I'll have to find out.
There you go.
If not, maybe I know someone who can like pass a law or something. Yes.
So you mentioned being on the opposite side of the majority for some of the things you're voting on in the Capitol. Do you find that that reflects your experience in the public school system as well, like while you were there?
That's a good question. I'm minority because I'm a minority member. We have 101 members in the House of Representatives, 81 are Republican and 20 are Democrat, and I am one of the 20. And so I tend to vote opposite a lot of people simply because of you have the supermajority that puts forward their agenda, and so I'm usually playing defense a lot on that. I was surprised that the rest of my caucus didn't, wake up, like, what do you mean? Like, what? And I'm like, this is big. We're changing graduation requirements while we have a state superintendent who's not doing things. So, yeah, I say that, but then there are a lot of times where I'll vote for things. And because I feel like, okay, out of everything presented to me, that's the best way forward. So it just depends on, how the bill is laid out, what does it involve, who does it affect. I try to think about all of those things when I'm voting. Yes?
Can you think of any resources that teachers, especially new teachers, can use to advocate for themselves or their students?
Do Do you mean advocating for, I mean, who are you advocating? Are you meaning advocating like the state legislature or?
Or just like in general, like things that can help you as a new teacher kind of step out and do
Okay.
some of the stuff.
So I would say your associations are the number one. So Nafme, if you, did we have band
OEA.
teachers?
Okay, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking OEA specifically.
OEA, which is the Oklahoma Educators Association, but you also have OMEA?
Yeah.
OKMEA.
yeah.
They changed it on me, and I'm like, ah. They're really great too, because through that, then you get there's power in numbers, there's your voice is louder. I mean, that's what I love about music. You can go from solo to ensemble, your ensemble is naturally louder because there's more voices. So having that association is that place where you can go, okay, try this out, and then yes, 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 and then all of a sudden you have a unified message and you're louder that way. But that's number one. I would go through, there's a group called OK Policy Institute, or Policy, yes, OK Policy. They do a lot of like overgeneral, like economy, criminal justice reform, education, health. They have general topics that is great to educate yourself on and then use that as a platform because you want to be able to have receipts when you're advocating. You know, you want to make sure you're founded in fact, not fiction. So, yes.
You have amazing hair. I want hair that was yours when I'm older.
Well, that's thanks to my mother, yes. Thank you very much. Yes, the going gray was, whew,
It
it
suits
was
you.
tough,
It suits
but
you.
thank you. It used to be red. If you can imagine that. And curly. You can imagine that. Yes.
How much does talking to your representative make a difference?
Oh, good question. A lot, honestly. So I've had constituents reach out to me to talk to me about specific things. Like I had one gentleman who he's an accountant, and he was talking to me about tax issues. And so back and forth, got his number. So then I'm looking at a bill that I'm gonna have in committee and I got questions. Who am I gonna go to? Him. He's in my district, he's an accountant, he knows. I'm gonna text him. Okay, I'm looking at this bill, it says this. I have another, my pharmacist. Anytime anything pharmacy crosses my desk, I'm reaching out to my pharmacist. Because that, he knows. When it comes to education, I'm reaching out to the educators. When it comes to certain types of law, I've got several lawyers that I reach out to. Because I would prefer to have my decisions based in my community than what the spin is. And there's a lot of spin, good Lord. So you gotta make sure that it's based in your community. And so it really is important, and sometimes people are like, well, you know, I mean, they'll like, Trish, can I talk to you about it? Sure, let's have coffee. That's my number one thing. Let's go have coffee. I'll sit down and have coffee with you, and in an hour, we can figure out if I can help you, if I can't, or where do I need to direct you, or how does this need to go next, and then we can move on from there. And usually I get their number at that point, and if something comes up, then like, oh, you know what, you and I talked about this at coffee, I have a question. And then we continue that relationship. That's advocacy, right there. One cup of coffee at a time. And I'm caffeinated, so it's great. Yes?
Specifically as like college students, even though we still have a ways to go, but like if we were looking into like advocating for stuff like that, how much does that affect it?
A
Even though
lot.
we're not like in the field yet.
No, I mean, it does a lot. I think what's frustrating to me is that I have colleagues who say that to college kids, which I'm sorry, I don't mean to call you kids, but college students, that, oh, you know, we're making these decisions for you because, oh, your life, I just don't understand. It's so hard. And it's like, we should be making decisions together because it's your generation. And that's really important. It takes the focus off. I can't claim to know what Gen Z is going through. But when I talk to you and you say, eek, I'm taking out all these loans to go to school and I'm worried about, am I gonna be able to pay them off in a timely fashion? And there was loan forgiveness, but now there's not, and now what do I do? And school prices are going up. That's a real life thing. And that's important going forward because we need you to finish your degree. We need you as a state to finish your degree. And I mean, number one, I want you to fulfill your potential, absolutely number one. Number two, I want you to have a higher paying job so you pay more taxes. So that way we can pay for all of the things. I mean, so it's both. And the overall, you may not have all of the answers, but you've got really good questions. And that's great because then it's like, okay, how do we make sure that this bill does what we need it to do for Gen Z? It can't just be boomer, boomer, boomer. Okay? It's gotta be the generations across.
I wanted to ask you to weigh in on this because most of the folks here in this room are looking at being public school music teachers at some point in their career. And in Oklahoma and in some other states, I worked in Indiana for a long time, school choice and voucher bills have been running roughshod through state legislatures. I wonder if maybe you could kind of give them a brief sort of synopsis of how those laws could potentially affect them and their future jobs.
Absolutely. So policy matters. Policy, for me, policy shows where your priorities are, just like your checkbook shows what your priorities are. I mean, your account balance. Do you have checkbooks anymore? I mean, I rarely write checks anymore, but it tells you what your priorities are. I mean, if you looked at mine, it'd be like coffee. That's pretty much priority right now. But it shows you where your priorities are. So we passed a voucher bill. Although it was termed as a tax credit bill, and it was passed in partnership with additional funding for public ed. So they tied the two together because they knew they could not pass the tax credit bill without a carrot. It's like, well, if you pass this, then you get more money to public schools. So they ended up passing it, which made me insane because I'm like, okay, they had this much money that they're going to carve out for this tax credit / voucher, and then they're only going to give this much amount of money to public ed, which is less. I'm like, we educate more children than private school does. And the argument was, we kept calling it a voucher, and it made the Republicans so mad. And they're like, it's not a voucher, it's a tax credit. I'm like, yes, but you're taking because they're like, it's not tied to education funds. It's not a voucher. I'm like, yeah, but you're taking it off the top. Therefore, that money will never go to public ed. You took it off the top, boom, there you go. What we're seeing from state to state, and we're already seeing it in Oklahoma, is that first amount is not enough. So they offer more the next year, going to the voucher program, then more. Arizona had to cut theirs off because it was going to sink their budget for the whole state. We're not there yet, but we're close. And I will tell you that if, with our current state superintendent, he's got another year until they re-elect. We don't know where he'll go after that, if he'll run again, or if he'll run for governor, or he'll run for the hills, I don't know. But regardless, we're in a situation right now that is contemptuous at best. Being an educator in a public school is hard, regardless. It's harder now, especially after COVID, especially with our current superintendent. It is hard. But doing hard things is important, honestly. It's really, really important to do hard things. It's really, really important to be 1 in 20. even though I feel like I don't get enough passed, that I don't have enough say, that I don't, all of those things, the laundry list of things that I fall short on, that my inner voice, which I try to shut off most of the time, but it tells me. But it's hard, and hard is important because hard makes you better. I mean, how many of you have looked at a piece of music and it was hard, but you chunked it up until you could play it or sing it? And that's important because now you're better. That's not hard anymore. Running for office for the first time, that was really hard. I've done it 4 times. It's not hard anymore. Not the same hard, but you know what I mean. But it's really important to do that. And the idea of that policy, it's this idea that, well, it's a foregone conclusion. It's going to happen. We can't fight it. Da, 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 da. No, we have to fight it. We have to. And we did. And we tried to fight it. And now it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, we might have to turn the ship around and take that money back. Because now we're looking at the balanced budget. It's not balancing as much anymore. And if we have this next fiscal year, 2027, we're going to have cuts to Medicaid. We're going to have cuts to SNAP benefits. That's going to affect our state. Our state's going to have to put those federal dollars back into this budget or not. If we don't put those federal dollars back into the budget, those are services to people who don't get them anymore. That is food for children and seniors that won't get that food anymore. That's really hard, but it's important. It's important work. We have to do it. And so, I don't want to leave on a downer. Sorry. But I tell you, get to know your fellow teachers. Get to know your fellow music teachers in your district, in your region, in your state. Work together, because that is really where the numbers count. And you got to vote. The number of teachers I know that don't vote is unbelievable. We teach the younger generation to be better than us. We got to show up to vote. So, really important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for